Greystone Taxes. We read the tax code so you don't have to.
Welcome to part 2 of the history of income tax in Canada. If you missed part 1, it's linked in the description and should be popping up in the corner right about now. That one covered how taxes started. Now let's talk about what we actually spent it on. Canada brought in income tax in 1917 to help pay for World War I. Totally reasonable. War is expensive. But here's the thing. The war ended in 1918, so naturally, the tax should have disappeared, right? Wrong. Over 100 years later, income tax is still very much a thing. So, what gives? Why didn't it go away? Where did that money go after the war? Let's talk about that. Before the war, Canada's federal debt was around 463 million. That's about 7 billion today. Not chump change back then. But when the war wrapped up, Canada's national debt was sitting at around 2 billion, which would be nearly 40 billion today. And that's not pocket change. That's not oops, we went over budget. That's holy crap, we're mortgaging the future. What caused it? Everything from rifles and rail cars to uniforms and veterans' pensions. The war had left the country financially drained. We borrowed like mad, and surprise, someone had to pay it back. And our shiny new income tax system wasn't going anywhere. After the war, customs revenue just wasn't cutting it anymore. Here's why. The debt was massive, and interest on that debt payment alone was a beast. Canada's economy was shifting. We were industrializing fast and importing less. The old system just couldn't keep up. After the war, people were hurting. The 1919 flu pandemic didn't help. The country needed more reliable revenue, and tariffs weren't cutting it anymore either. Not only was international trade rocky, but Canadians were demanding more from their government support for seniors, veterans, families, you know, civilization. Income tax, originally a temporary measure, started to look very, very permanent. So, where did our taxes go? In the 1920s, a good chunk of our income paid for interest on war debt, military pensions, expanding the RCMP, so no, not just guys on horses for postcard photos, postal service expansion, getting letters and packages to remote areas, infrastructure maintenance like roads, bridges, and rail lines to keep the country stitched together. We weren't throwing cash at social programs yet, but we were certainly laying the foundation. So, in 1927, something changed. Canada introduced the Old Age Pensions Act. It was our first real foray into social support. $20 a month for seniors over 70. Means tested and only for British subjects who had lived in Canada at least 20 years. A very exclusive club. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't generous. Today, $20 might buy you lunch. Back then, it was a lifeline, equal to about $360 a month today. Not huge, but it was a start. And it wasn't fully federal. The provinces had to chip in 50%. How the provinces paid for that is a different video. It wasn't perfect, but it was the beginning of something bigger. A government that didn't just build bridges, it started building a safety net. So by the end of the 1920s, income tax had quietly shifted from temporary wartime measure to permanent feature of Canadian life. It wasn't just about paying off war debt anymore. It was about building the infrastructure of a modern country. So no, income tax didn't vanish when the war ended. It evolved. It became the fuel for post war recovery, debt repayment, and eventually the first steps toward what we now call social programs. It stopped being about just what we owed and started being about what kind of country we wanted to build. So if you ever asked, where the hell did my taxes go? Well, they used to go toward winning wars and building railroads. And then the economy tanked. The Great Depression hit. Suddenly, what we pay for turned into how do we survive? That's where we're heading next. Part 3, the 1930s. If you enjoyed the history lesson or just feel slightly more informed than your uncle at Thanksgiving, hit like, subscribe, and check out greystonetaxes.ca. We read the tax code so you don't have to. Oh, and remember, the CRA may not accept excuses, but they do accept e-transfers.